Welcome to the Good Morning from the Chicken Coop podcast with Kim Johnson, your creative strategist and master mindset coach. Filled with inspiration, distinctions, perspectives, and possibilities, we help you to cultivate a mindset that leads you to create the best version of yourself you could ever imagine. Join Kim every morning from one of her favorite happy places, her chicken coop, along with all her chickens.
Hey everybody, good morning from the chicken coop, and I am in the chicken coop today. Rain, 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 and more rain. So we are inside, and it's really actually nice in here with the sound on the metal roof. It's pretty cool. Anyway, today we are talking about how you define yourself. This is always a fascinating question to ask somebody, or even yourself for that matter, because most of the time we don't think about defining ourselves. We just think about what we have to do and the chores of the day and what has to get done. And we rarely take the time to pause and say, wait, how do I define myself? Because we have so many different areas of ourselves. Most of us have relationships, whether we're children to somebody or we're parents to somebody or we're grandchildren to somebody. We're partners, we're wives, we're husbands, we're, an employee, a business owner, a leader. All these different roles actually are used in the definitions of ourselves. But I'm not just talking about the big role portion of this. I'm talking about the humanness of you. How do you define the humanness of yourself? When you get down to it, the phrase is, I am, whatever that I am might be. I am creative. I am loving. I am, abundant. How do you think of yourself? How do you define yourself? And typically, this isn't something that anyone teaches you. This isn't something that you sit there in school and you say, okay, I'm going to figure out how I define myself. What happens is it comes out in the moments. I am frustrated. I am sad. I am overwhelmed. We use that phrase so readily when it comes to certain things, but not typically the healthy things. It usually shows up with the unhealthy aspects of stuff. And before you know it, we're in a place where we are actually really like embedding this into our subconscious that this is who we are. I am broke. I am out of money. I am whatever language you want to use on it. Lots of times this shows up with money. So it's important to pay attention to that piece because it's a very sensitive spot, as you've heard me mention before. But this I am phrase tends to show up in the negatives. And, I am out of ideas. I'm starving. I love that when people say that, I'm starving. We're not starving. We're hungry. It's that simple. But we always over-exaggerate, and then we put ourselves in this place of lack. And once you start that, again, the phrase I am, many teachers will talk about the fact, especially if you're in religious teachers or spiritual teachers, the I am phrase is the closest phrase that you can use to the holy ground, if you will, because it's talking directly to whatever you might believe, to God, to the universe, and it speaks to how you view yourself in the world. So when you start using it and you use it haphazardly, it is a dangerous, dangerous pond of thin ice, my friends. So the first step in this is asking yourself, well, how do I define myself? Grab a piece of paper, sit down, and start to ask yourself, well, what else? What are the other things? You'll get a few off your head right away. Like, so when I start mine, one of the very first things that comes up for me is I'm creative. It's part of my identity that I developed early on in my life, and I am very, very blessed that I had a grandmother who really poured into that part of me and talked about it all the time. Anytime I drew something for her or anytime I painted something, she would always say, oh my gosh, you're so creative, you're so creative, you're so creative. So I believed her, and it was fortunate for me that she was putting in something really wonderful, because very easily she could have been putting in something not so wonderful, and that happens all the time. It happens all the time where somebody doesn't realize what they're doing, and boom, before you know it, what their view of you becomes your belief and your I ams. But when you sit down and you start asking the question, Who am I? How do you define yourself across the board? I am organized. I am full of love. I'm kind. I share readily with my friends. These definitions are the roadmap to defining yourself, yes, but redefining yourself really. So if there are things on there that you don't feel are accurate about yourself, when you look back at the list and you say, well, I am, like especially around the negative ones, if you look back and you say, well, this is here, but I don't want this to be here, you can redefine this. But you've got to be honest with yourself when you start to write the list. So the first thing you're going to notice is you'll come up with a few right away, and they may be positive, they may be negative, they may be a mix of both. But it's not important that you sit there and say, okay, these are negative, these are positive. What's important is that you nail the list down and get that first wave. Then there'll be a second wave. So I suggest what you do is you kind of keep it out. Oh, that's really loud right now because he's right above my head. The second list will show up, or the second part of the list. And it will flow out of you over the course typically of 24 to 48 hours, where you'll start to get more and more clarity. You'll have more and more things that pour out of you. You'll have a thought and write it down. You'll have a thought and write it down. So some people find that doing this on paper with a pencil is great. Some people will keep notes in their phone. But whichever way you decide to do it, allow yourself enough time to get a full list of things and a full identity that you feel is pretty accurate of how you see yourself currently. Then you can go back and say, which ones of these do I want to keep and which ones of these do I want to reshape? And the reshaping process is simply taking those negatives, moving them off the list, or rewriting them. In other words, so if you think, I'm poor, I'm broke, if that's on your list, a positive would be, I'm abundant, I have more than enough money, I'm a money magnet. You can start doing the flip, the opposite. Will these feel right in the beginning? No, but this is part of the re-identification that you're going through, the redefining, if you will. So you just have to be patient with yourself and start the process off. So right now, that's what you're going to focus on. That's what you're going to do. And I hope you guys have a fabulous day defining, who am I? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.